Welcome back to Upcell's interview. We're in Paris, France, for the second annual event of Upcell Alliance. I have the pleasure to host today a second interview. I'm Ingrid Leiser, engineer and business developer at Schneider Electric. And I'm hosting today Truls Johansen from Elinor Batteries, Chief Strategy Officer and also Director of Upcell Alliance. Welcome, Truls.
Thank you, Ingrid. It's so great to see you again and to be in Europe, of course.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Just to start with this interview, could you tell us a little bit more about your journey into this industry and, of course, a little bit more about Elinor Batteries?
Yeah, sure. I'll try to do that. I always give it like a different pitch about myself, so it's always on the fly. But I'm one of the co-founders of Elinor Batteries in Norway. Just quickly about Elinor Batteries, I think first, because we have been working for several years to establish new industry based on the renewable energy of Norway. I think also based on the industrial competence and the industrial culture of Norway, which has long roots, and also based, of course, on some of the resources we have in Norway. So Elinor Batteries will establish battery production in central Norway, near Trondheim, which is the third largest city. We have worked a lot to find the perfect industrial site. We have that. We got energy. We are in a region where it's not that populated, but still there's a lot of people around to sort of absorb the workforce that's needed for such gigascale production that we are setting up. At this event with Upcell, we are also bringing our new technology partner from China, because we really believe that we need to get the best competency on board, and that's of course where the industry is running in very, very large scale, and they also want to be a part of what's going on in Europe. So that's exciting, and we can talk more about that. So myself, I'm an industrial design engineer, and I think for me, I've been very engaged in what's going on in society. I've been working since several years now as an advisor. Design thinking is a buzzword that was very hot a few years ago, and I think my idea was to bring the design thinking into diverse fields on the strategy level. So that's what I've been doing. That's what brought me to this, as well as let's say, I was very engaged in what should Norway do to be a nice place to work and live and to have a nice contribution globally in the future, and not just be an oil producing nation, which is what we're mostly known for today. Yeah, that's the background, I think.
That's an interesting point of view, and I think it's also I've had the pleasure to, of course, to work through Upcell and meet a lot of people from the ecosystem, and I've always remembered how the people from Nordic countries, especially Norway, you bring a really optimistic and high standards values when it comes to how to change the industry. Have you also thought of how Norway can bring some good things in this industry within Europe? What would be your point of view?
Yeah, I think so. I could give one interesting example from us. So of course we know that carbon emissions will be priced. Increasingly, this will be something you have to pay for if you do emissions. We in Norway have a long history also of being quite careful about how we develop, let's say, how we use the nature. And we believe that also in the future we'll actually have to pay or compensate for your use of nature for industrial purposes and other, let's say, man-made purposes. So that's been one important contribution, that we could work with that from very early on. So we invested, actually, in Norway it's quite strict, but we invested even more than you probably needed to do in the early permit phase for our site to understand fully the nature impact of building industries there. We found we needed a greenfield, so an empty site. There weren't any sort of brownfield sites able to house this scale of operations. But we have worked a lot with figuring out how we can compensate and how we can also calculate these things so that in the future we can answer to the demands. But also, I think the European Union, as a globally leading, let's say, sustainability regulation authority, is important for us. So we are trying to leverage some of the competency and some of the ways of doing it in Norway, but also we're very important to us that the European Union requires these things. And that's the combination, I think. So we can produce it there, but it will be for the European market in the beginning, and hopefully also making us competitive globally once more and more countries and regions see that you really need to actually take these economic externalities into the calculation. Yeah.
That's inspiring and laying some solid foundations for the change and a more eco-friendly industry, which is of course very hard and challenging to put in place. Of course, in the battery industry, energy savings, reducing waste, scrap reductions, all of it, it's at every step of the process.
Yeah.
So at which step of the process for the Gigafactory are you exactly right now, if I may ask?
So we are working very much now to take the market position that we need to take to defend an investment in a Gigafactory. So I would say that the most important thing for us to see is that the European Union actually rewards European production. We know the customers will reward it to some degree, but you probably also need some reward from the regulators in the market. But for us, the energy storage solutions of Europe is the market, and that should be with the projections more than enough to defend more than just our facility as well. Of course, not targeting the entire market, but it's going to be huge in Europe as well. Yeah, and that's we're working now to take the market position, and we have the technology partners. That's a very, very important piece of it. Of course, we are also working with, and that's part of the reason why I brought a colleague here as well. We're understanding the offerings in the European machine builder and supplier ecosystem. So that's important. And we're, of course, working on another thing that's connected to sustainability, the raw material supply chain, which to a large degree can actually be housed in the Nordic countries, also very much increasing the sustainability, reducing the carbon footprint, going on renewable energy, and of course trying to reduce the transportation needs, which is more sustainable, and also of course an operational advantage because all these materials have a lifespan.
So we're in a very challenging industry and very competitive markets. And I love how you talk a lot about all the environmental impacts and everything done along the lines to make sure it's the right decisions and paving the way to a respectful industry. Now, you mentioned, of course, that you are looking to working with some Asian partners in this competitive world, and of course, it's sometimes a sensitive topic. So I wonder, what is the key point for you in this collaboration? What do you think is the best part of such a collaboration, and how do you make sure to mitigate all risks when it comes, of course, to supply chain risks and just cultural differences, working from two different parts of the world? What is really the strategy here for Elinor?
Yeah, so what we have found in our technology partner, which is Moreless Technology, is one of the world's most experienced battery teams. So we are lucky they have created a spin-off company from their old employer, let's say, who should be very well known to the industry and the world. And they are, there's many things to say, and hopefully the members here also get to meet them at this event. They are going to, of course, show us how it's done to make it in simple terms. Not just the product designs, which is a very important thing that requires investment and also requires the infrastructure that Europe is building, but with not quite there yet. But they also, of course, have the experience on putting all the machines together and making it work. And we know a lot now about how that's been done in China. It's a bit different than what we've done in Europe. And I think we need to understand how it's done. We need to try and learn and see if we can also adapt to the way it's done in China. It's down to Where is the competency actually located? Is it in-house? Is it with the suppliers? It seems to be to a large degree in-house with the companies. So lots of learnings about how to plan a factory. That's important for us. As for the risk mitigation, this is on very many levels. The tech partnership itself is a very, very big risk mitigation for us compared to actually trying to build our own technical stuff from the ground up, building the product designs, building the competency from the ground up. It would have taken many more years, and the risk would have been higher, I think, in total with that route. So the plan A, of course, is to collaborate with a Chinese company. And they are aware of that some planning processes, development processes, etc., are done different here. So you have had to have discussions on many levels, on the meta level, on the discussion about how to plan so that we can plan together. And also, of course, we had to find a company that was not just extremely skilled at doing what they do today, but also could think with us on how we do this in Europe, and that's who we found.
And to prepare the future in a collaborative way.
Yeah, and of course they are already customer of international suppliers, so they're buying machines from not just from China, they're buying machines from Europe, they're buying machines from Japan, and they are combining things in-house. They're not contracting huge turnkey contracts on lots of things. They are, let's say, more mix and matching, and that's something to learn from for us as well.
Absolutely, and I think that's also something that is at the heart of Upcell Alliance, and many are talking about.
Yeah.
And as we are today in Paris for the second event of the year, what do you look forward to in this event? Is there any specific point today that you find key?
Oh yeah. So today I know, and tomorrow there are points now on the agenda about the policy of the EU, and also, of course, points for the members here to see what their opportunities are internationally. I hope to, let's say, be part of bringing some of that to them with more or less being invited here. And of course, also the American market is going to be represented. So that's definitely highlights for me. And it's a highlight also to bring Anastasia, who's our colleague here, and start talking to the machine suppliers and getting some opportunities for how we can combine the puzzle pieces and make sure that we give European offerings a chance and to understand them and to include them in our processes going forward. So that's a highlight for what we're going to do here as a company, I think.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Maybe to end on this, I would like to propose if you could have a question for Upcell Alliance members and partners, if you would finish up with a question to the community.
Oh yeah. So I think for us now we're looking at okay, take a little time. So we've been traveling a lot to Asia now and looking at what's going on there. If you are at any battery factory, you can take the train a couple of hours and you will have, let's say, 80% of your resources within that. That's a simple way of saying that there's a huge infrastructure, there's competency, there's suppliers, there's so much support underneath any project, and that has been established over now it's decades of work. And for us, we understand it's a bit hard to just ask for subsidies and so on in Europe, but what can we do together to mitigate the risk while we also build this infrastructure? So in a future thriving industry that's competitive, that's good, but until we get there, we need to collaborate also with authorities. So it's not maybe subsidies, but maybe for us it's very important that the end customers are rewarded for choosing European production. Maybe that's also the case with machine suppliers. So we have to take policy into account when we try to sell to each other in this market, and how can we do that, and how can we collaborate with the governments? I think that's my question.
Okay, wonderful. So let's discuss that also during the event and probably online with comments. Please feel free to participate to the debate. It was a pleasure to host you today, Truls.
Thank you so much.
I invite everyone to check out Elinor Batteries projects and your website. And of course, follow us with Upcell Alliance, and see you next time. Thank you.
Thanks.